Okay, so your fall final exam will have 30 questions on it. All of them will be multiple choice. You need to know what's exactly on this review to be prepared for it. So, first question is define and give an example of an abiotic factor. Abiotic means it's not biotic. In other words, it's not from biology. It's not something that's living or came from living. So, like a rock would be an abiotic factor. The next question is a biotic factor. That's something that came from something that was living, like, for instance, decaying wood or a table that's made out of wood. It could be feces. It could be a leaf. It could be an actual something living like a plant. So what are the 7 properties of life? And define them. Well, the first property is cellular organization. All living things are composed of cells. Some are unicellular, some are multicellular. The next one is they want to try to maintain homeostasis, which just occurs when living things maintain a stable internal environment. All living things have some sort of metabolism, which is just chemical reactions that are going on inside the organisms with energy, and it starts, of course, the ultimate source of all energy is the sun. It needs to be responsive in some way. In other words, it needs to maintain homeostasis by responding to the environment. It needs to have some form of reproduction or a continuation of life. It needs to also be able to have some way of passing on traits through heredity, and of course it needs to be able to grow. All living organisms grow, some more slowly, some more quickly. So it says place the following in order from largest to smallest, and I made an adjustment on the formative assessment. And this is just talking about the organization of living things. It starts with cells and it goes to tissues and organs, and several organs make up an organ system, and several organ systems make up an organism. And of course, what is the organization of living systems? We've already talked about these. Exactly what I just said is that, many cells make up tissues, many tissues make up an organ, many organs make up organ systems, many organ systems make up an organism. Describe 3 major tenets or factors of cell theory. Okay, so the theory states that all living organisms are composed of cells. They may be unicellular or multicellular. It also states that the cell is the most basic unit of life. And finally, cells arise from pre-existing cells. In other words, there's no such thing as spontaneous generation. What is the main difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells? Okay, just remember eukaryotics are like you and me. So that means that we do have membrane-bound organelles. We have a central nucleus where, of course, all our chromosomes are located, and that's exactly where the DNA is at. There's also, obviously with prokaryotes, there's not membrane-bound organelles, and the genetic material is just located throughout the cell. The difference in cellular structure of prokaryotes and eukaryotes include the presence of mitochondria and chloroplasts, the cell wall, and the structure of chromosomal DNA. Prokaryotes were the only form of life on Earth for millions of years until there was some complicated eukaryotic cell. And again, that's a theory. It's just important to know these theories, whether you believe them or not. It's just important to know the theory so that way you can argue it back and forth. So let's move on. State the function of each of the organelles and be able to identify it in the cell. Well, the nucleus, let's just go ahead and pull up a nice little simulation for it real quick. Okay, so you've probably seen this before. If you haven't, this is a good thing to look at. It's on Shepherd software. So we're going to look at the nucleus first. It's like the mayor, where the nucleus directs much of the cell activity. This is where DNA is found. And then the endoplasmic reticulum. This is where ribosomes are dotting the surface of the endoplasmic reticulum, following direct instructions from the nucleus, and make the proteins that the cell needs. The endoplasmic reticulum also prepares the proteins for transport to the Golgi apparatus, which is considered the packaging plant of the cell, or straight to the other parts of the cell. The mitochondria is considered the power plant of the cell. This is where ATP is created, which fuels the cell. Ribosomes. are the small factories. Ribosomes can be found on the endoplasmic reticulum or floating throughout the cytoplasm. They follow instructions from the nucleus and create proteins that the cell needs. The free-floating ribosomes create proteins that stay inside the cell. The ribosomes on the endoplasmic reticulum make proteins. These either leave the cell or stay inside the cell. The Golgi apparatus, and this is like a packaging plant. One of the Golgi apparatus's main job is grouping items like lipids and proteins and packages them into vesicles or packets. Different molecules get different kinds of packaging so the body knows what they are. The Golgi apparatus then ships its packages to different destinations. Some leave the cell while others go to other cells or other organelles. Lysosomes and peroxisomes. What's a cell to do with all the waste materials? They send them to the lysosomes and peroxisomes, of course. Like recycling station, these organelles break down waste and detoxify poisons to clean up the cell. In addition, they salvage any materials that the cell can use. There we go. The plasma membrane, well, this is like the doorman. The plasma membrane is the outer liner of a cell. Like a doorman, it controls what the molecules pass in and go out of the cell. And of course, this is an animal cell. So let's go ahead and look at the plant cell as well. Now, the first thing you should notice with a plant cell, it has this big thing right in the middle, and that's a vacuole. And of course, these are in the animal cells as well, but the vacuole is much more pronounced in a plant cell. Vacuoles store water and nutrients that the cell needs to survive. Vacuoles also store waste products so the cell does not become contaminated. In plants, vacuoles play an important role in cell structure. When the vacuoles are low on water, the plant cell droops, which causes wilting. When vacuoles are full of water, the cell regains its shape. And of course, one of the biggest differences between an animal and a plant cell is, of course, the cell wall. And this provides rigidity. The plant cell also has a rigid wall, which protects it from injury. In addition, the cell wall maintains the plant cell shape. How? Well, fluid collects in the vacuoles and presses against the cell wall. This pressure against the cell wall determines the plant cell's sturdy shape and is responsible for crispness of fresh vegetables. I almost forgot about one of the most important differences between a plant cell and an animal cell, and that's that plant cells have chloroplasts. And these are just called the solar plants of the cell. Plant cells use sunlight as their main energy source, though through a process called photosynthesis, chloroplasts convert the sun's rays into energy that the cell can use. Chloroplasts are very similar to mitochondria in both structure and function. Both organelles produce an energy-rich molecule called ATP for the cell. The cytoplasm, and this is where everything is like the fluid in between all the organelles. All the organelles in the cell are suspended in the cytoplasm. The liquid maintains the internal pressure of the cell, ensuring that it doesn't shrink like a deflated balloon. Also, the cytoplasm contains many of the important molecules and free-floating ribosomes needed for protein synthesis. Okay, so coming back out to the document, I think that we got through all of these. We didn't talk about the flagella or the cilia. The flagella is just a structure that allows for movement within a cell. So, for instance, some of the bacteria need to move from one place to the other to respond to its environment. It just has a structure that sticks out the back that allows it to move. And of course, there's cilia. Cilia and flagella perform similar functions. They're both used for locomotion, either of the organism or of items that are within or around the organism. So, but how they move and how they beat back and forth is different. So just keep that in mind. A central vacuole, we talked about central vacuoles, so let's go ahead and move on. What three structures do plant cells have that animal cells do not? Well, they obviously have a cell wall. They have chloroplasts, and they have a large central vacuole. So why are cells so small? Cells are so little so that they can maximize the ratio of the surface area to the volume. Smaller cells have a higher ratio, which allows more molecules and ions to move across the cell membranes per unit of cytoplasmic volume. Cells are also small because they need to be able to get the nutrients in and the waste out quickly. So describe what happens as a cell gets larger. The important point, this is of course related back to the last question, dealing with getting nutrients in and nutrients out, and it deals with the ratio of the surface area to the volume of the cell. After it gets so big, it can't move enough of the waste out and enough of the molecules back in to actually allow the cell to function correctly. So let's go on to human body systems. What are the main organs of the circulatory system? Well, we of course can know it's the heart, and it's of course got thick arteries and capillaries. We also know that it works very, very closely with the cardiovascular system. As far as the main purpose is to move CO2 out of the body and oxygen into the body, along with other nutrients around the body. What is the main function of the digestive system? The function of the digestive system is to gain energy. It's to process food, which of course gives the body energy. What's the main organs of the digestive system? Well, the major ones are your stomach, your small intestines, large intestines. There's other ones like your mouth, include your esophagus. There's other parts that actually, everything within the GI tract, you might have heard that before in your life, which of course is your stomach, your small intestines, your large intestines. Let's see, let's go on to the next one. Describe the difference between chemical and physical digestion. Give an example of organs which use the method to break down food. So chemical digestion, or really chemical change, is what we're really talking about, is whenever you have an actual change in the way the molecules are put together. So this happens with saliva as you're starting to eat it, or eat the food, and then it goes down the stomach, and of course that mixes with acid, which again does more chemical changes to the material. Physical or mechanical digestion, of course, starts with the stomach and it continues on into the intestines as well. That's why your said intestines, I meant into your stomach. That's why your stomach will groan sometimes. It's because your stomach is actually, it's all it is just a pouch full of muscle, and it's just moving back and forth. What is the main function of the excretory system? The main function of the excretory system is to remove waste. What are the main organs of the excretory system? Is of course the kidneys, the bladder would be two of the main organs. Explain why hydration is so important to your body and how you can tell how hydrated you are. Your body depends on water to survive. Every cell, tissue, and organ in your body needs water to work properly. You definitely don't want to get out of homeostasis, which is just that nice little area to where your body can survive. Ways that you can simple ways you can tell if you're dehydrated is just looking at your skin. If your skin is dry, that's an easy way to look. There's other ways as well, which include urine color and also skin turgor, which again is looking at your skin. Another way you can look at it or tell is if you're creating sweat. If you're doing something outside and you're getting hot, you should still be able to sweat. If you're not sweating, that means that you need to go in and drink some water. That's why they're always talking about staying hydrated, because if you're not sweating, your body's not able to cool down correctly. So what is the main function of the skeletal system? Well, the main function of the skeletal system is to provide support and locomotion. What's the main organs? Well, any one of your bones would be a main organ. The tibia, the fibia, the skull. What is the main function of the nervous system, and what cell organelle can it be compared to? Well, the main function of the nervous system is to provide communication, and of course the organelle that it would be most often compared to is the nucleus. What are the main organs of the nervous system? The brain and the spine. What is the main function of the integumentary system, and what cell organelle can it be compared to? Well, the main function of the integumentary system is to provide protection against the environment, and the cell organelle it can be compared to most often is the cell membrane. What is the main function of the muscular system? Well, it provides many functions, but the main one is locomotion. What are the main organs of the muscular system? The tricep, the bicep, any one of your major muscle groups. What is the main function of the respiratory system? This is to provide exchange of gases with the environment. This is where we exchange CO2 with O2. What are the main organs of the respiratory system? The lungs and the heart. What is the main function of the endocrine system? The endocrine system is made up of many glands that secrete hormones, and this helps regulate metabolism in the body. What are the main organs of the endocrine system? Well, there's many of them. The pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the pancreas is another of many of the organs in the endocrine system. What is the main function of a reproductive system? That's pretty obvious. It's to reproduce. Let's talk about homeostasis and tropism. What is homeostasis? Well, homeostasis is the ability of an organism to maintain a balance with its environment. What is tropism? Well, this is just the ability for an organism to either turn away or turn towards some sort of stimulus. This could either be, and I'm going to kind of go into the next one, the three types, one of the three types of tropism. And there's many types of tropism. There's not just three. But like, for instance, whenever a plant turns toward maybe a window so that it can get more sunlight, that's called phototropism. There's geotropism, and there's hydrotropism, where hydrotropism would be whenever it's trying to grow its roots towards closer to a water supply. And of course, geotropism or gravitropism is its response, the roots and the stems response to gravity. What is fight or flight? This is just an organism's response to a situation where maybe it's in danger. What is wilting caused from? We've already talked about that. That's caused from a loss of turgor pressure in the vacuole. What is Oxen and how is it used? Oxen is used, it's a plant hormone, and it's used in to help plants grow better. Let's see here. What is external stimuli? Well, this is just external to an organism. For instance, this is what typically we, like for instance, if a bright light is in my eye, I'd want to turn away. That's an external stimuli. An internal stimuli would be, like for instance, if I get hungry, my stomach is growling, I'm starting to run low on energy, so that's internal to my body. Okay, well, I think that finishes up the review. Good luck on the test. Thanks.